Good evening, and welcome to this edition of the Speakers and Leaders Hour. I'm Dave Wilkins, your host, and we come into your home once a month, first Tuesday of the month, from 7 to 8 p.m., and we're here to talk about communication skills and leadership. The communication skills are exemplified by the organization Toastmasters International. You just saw that in that beautiful opening. And later in the program, we're going to talk about leadership through the auguses of the Parliamentary Society, the American Institute of Parliamentarians, and our local chapter, Chapter 33, Bob Lyman chapter. But I want to first introduce a really distinguished panel of Toastmasters this evening. Every last one of them is a leader and an officer here in parts of District 11, which is all of Indiana. First person I'd like to introduce is Patricia Knaebe. And Patricia, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and you are
I'm Division B Governor this year.
Okay, and what area does that encompass?
It encompasses Fort Wayne, Northeast Indiana.
Northeast Indiana,
Yes.
okay. Mm-hmm. And finally, next to you is Mr. Tom Haller. Tom, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
And you serve as?
Area Governor for Area 24.
Okay.
It's several local Fort Wayne clubs.
Okay. How many clubs are in that area?
5.
5, wow, okay. And you get to visit them regularly or so on?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. And finally, last but not least, is our own very humorous Bob Norris. And Bob, could you tell us about your duties and who you are?
Well, thank you for having me, Dave. I'm Lieutenant Governor of Marketing for District 11, which takes in Indiana and Northern Kentucky. I get to meet a lot of great people all around the state. And my job is basically recruiting new members, working to retain those we have, and working to retain and build new clubs to help the district grow. Because in the process of it growing, we also are able to provide more services to all of our members.
Wow, okay. And all three of you at different levels, but still going through the same chairs in the same organization. Mm-hmm. Area Governor, Division Governor, and Lieutenant Governor of Marketing. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, thank you all for being here. And ladies and gentlemen, this is a group that is really very talented and very interesting to be around. And they're going to talk about their various skills and subsets here in just a moment. But I want to remind you that this is a live show. We are here in the Allen County Public Library, downtown Fort Wayne, in Studio A, part of Access Fort Wayne. And as I say, it's live and interactive. That number is 422-3902. If you know any of us, would like to talk to us, if you have questions about Toastmasters, perhaps a club near you, give us a call and we will do our best to answer it. So let's see here. So we just went through a series of contests and they culminated at the division level. Can you talk about that, how that went and so on?
Absolutely. We just finished the international and evaluation speech contests. They started at the club level. Any club within the division could have participants at the club level. Once first and second place members from the club were determined, then those people moved on to the area contests. Each area, and in Division B there are 3 areas, each area had its own contestants for both the international and the evaluation speech contest. Once the first and second place winners were determined from those contests, those contestants moved on to the Division B contest, which we had on March 23rd here at the public library. And it was a fun contest, it was a challenging contest, and our final winners from that, one from the international speech contest and one from the evaluation speech contest, will move on to the district level at our spring conference, which is coming up on April 12th and 13th.
Okay. And Tom, part of the contest that you had were the area contests?
Yes.
Okay, and then your contestants fed into the contest that Patricia had.
Right, that's exactly right. It should be noted, it may not be part of the flow here, it should be noted that Mr. Wilkins will be one of the people representing this part of Indiana at the conference.
That was because our first place contestant could not be available to go on. So yeah, I will be very proud to represent Division B, and that's in the evaluation contest. So, yes. And so you had how many? Several people in your contests?
Yeah, about half of the clubs, I think 3 or
Participate.
4 of them, had somebody in the contest.
Okay, right. And Bob, I know you attended most of these contests, and I have to compliment all 3 of you on how well you work together. You make it look like it's a well-oiled machine. And some of it can appear confusing to the audience, but you've bent every effort to make sure that it wasn't confusing and everybody knew exactly what was going on.
Thank you.
So now you will go to the spring conference, is that it?
That's correct. And actually, I was notified here a few weeks ago that I am the contest Toastmaster for the Friday evening evaluation contest. I did not run for the position, but was elected anyway. So we will step up and do what we can. I think it will be a fun evening. And a key part difference from a regular speech contest most people don't understand is that in a regular speech contest, you're competing with your speech, whatever Dave might give, Patricia, or Tom. In the evaluation contest, what we do is we have what's lovingly called a target speaker who gives a speech, and then the candidates, the contestants in the evaluation, make their best evaluation, and they compete against each other who does the best evaluation. And that can be most interesting, and I'm glad I'm not one of the judges.
Yeah, so so the judges judge who gives the best advice or the best suggestions to that one speaker.
I think it's a combination depending on how they do it, and that is versus just being another speech about a speech. It is based on being a true evaluation like any one of us would have in a club speech.
Okay, I heard something from one of my club members recently that distressed me. I had always been heard that an evaluation was actually a mini speech with an opening body and close. And this person was telling me, no, an evaluation is an evaluation and not a speech. So would any of you like to address that? Do you have any thoughts on it? Stunning silence.
Yeah, we got to pick your questions more carefully, Dave. Silence doesn't go well until.
Okay, in that case, never mind. But no, I'm curious. Do you think a speech? Do you think an evaluation is a mini speech, or is it just an evaluation?
I think it can actually be a little of both.
Okay.
But a proper evaluation when done at the club level is I will talk about how you gave your speech, what you did well, what can be done for improvement, and wrap it with encouragement. But in the process, I don't necessarily add in a bunch of gestures or make it into a sweeping speech like other speakers when they're talking on a certain subject might do. So it's very much more rigid on the expectation.
Okay.
It is basically having an opening, a body, and a close because you will go with the introduction, you will give the meat of it, which is the improvement, the things you did well, the improvement, and then of course wrapping it up in the conclusion with the encouragement.
Okay.
But then in this contest in particular, the judges are looking, did they point out this? Did they point out that? How much encouragement did they do? Did they handle it as encouragement or did they handle it as somebody getting critiqued, which is a no-no in Toastmasters?
Yeah. Okay. Do you have something to say about it, Tom?
Well, yeah, the question really kind of threw me as I thought about it while we were talking. I believe it is a hybrid of the two. I think it's a combination of a speech and strictly an evaluation. As Bob said, it does have an opening, a body, which is almost all of it, and a close. You address the people. So it would meet the basic criteria of a speech, but certainly it's a little different than typical speech.
Yeah. What do you say, Patricia?
Well, and I am leaning more toward the fact that it is a true evaluation as opposed to being a mini speech, although I do agree with what Tom said, certainly, that it does have an introduction when you are addressing Toastmasters and your guests and the person who gave the speech. You make that address very, very clear before you get into the evaluation. I like to call the evaluation a love sandwich: positive followed by what you can improve upon, followed by a positive, and that puts the evaluation portion, the improvement portion, in the middle of two pieces of positive. So for my take, it's more of an evaluation than it is a speech.
Okay.
Now, just one thing that, while we're on this topic, having been the target speaker, the person who is evaluated, it doesn't hurt to have a thick hide. When a half dozen people get done telling you what you might have done better.
Yes, well, it takes a very special person to be able to be the target speaker for a contest. But I maintain, and I this is just after a long time of having been a member, that I would much rather have someone put together a moderately structured presentation rather than say, and it says here, did you do so-and-so? Yes. Did you do so? No, you didn't. Blah, 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 blah. That's a horrible evaluation, if you ask me. I think that you can be entertaining as well as be informative to your prospective person who you are giving an evaluation to. Okay, so there's a whole gamut of opinions here. I think that's what makes Toastmasters Toastmasters. Okay, well, we're going to have some mini presentations, and our first one is going to be done by Mr. Bob Norris, who is our Lieutenant Governor of Marketing, and he is going to give what he calls the district update. So, with no further ado, let's welcome Bob Norris.
Thank you, Dave, fellow Toastmasters, and audience at home. The district update. We are just a few months from the end of the year, but in my opinion, what is really exciting is the conference, which is coming up in less than 2 weeks. The conference entails the election of our next officers. It entails making sure we have clubs properly located and through the different parts of Indiana. And we will also, again, have the two great contests, the evaluation and the international speech contest. What we're doing for an update now is April's is a dues month. Twice a year, Toastmasters International collects dues. Every organization needs a little bit of money to keep the things rolling, and like anyone, we need some money too. Toastmasters is probably the most economical of any club you can belong to, and you also receive many times more back in benefits than the $6 a month to belong than you'll ever pay. We are about 78% of paid clubs right now. And April, there's actually a little bit of an extension period, we call it. Technically, the dues were due on the 1st, but they actually, to be in the safe zone, we have through the 10th. So some of them are trickling in as we speak. And what I find most interesting as part of it is so many people were the ones that kind of wait till the last minute. So the website was extremely busy the last few days, and some people couldn't get into the website. Patience with a capital P, maybe a capital A-T, and etc. was the word. 11:30 at night worked pretty good because I think most other people were in bed. But that was a key thing. And more is coming. We are in the process of reaching out, and I think within touching distance of our goals. We are getting back to the clubs. We need a certain number of clubs to reach our level of commitment. We have reached our base level and we're moving on. And part of this too is that we offer mini contests. We don't do the Indiana Lottery or the Powerball. We don't have those kind of things to offer for money, and we really don't gamble. The only gamble is if you don't use Toastmasters to help you become a better presenter. But we have different contests, one that's called the High Five, where we have a person doing this on the front of it. The Distinguished Club program has 10 points, and when you have reached the membership goal of 20, or in that game of 5, and you complete at least 5 of those, you have gotten the High Five award. Some of those will be distributed at the conference. And those folks that follow afterwards or reach the membership and the goals, they'll be eligible before the end of the year, which for us is June 30th. Kind of one of those strange things on how it isn't on the calendar year of December 31st. But they didn't ask my input, so I didn't give it. We have other goals, such as we are heading forward into officer training. And one of our great leaders in District 11 already has her upcoming officer training plotted out. So that is awesome in itself. Twice a year we do officer training. We've done very well in getting it trained. Sometimes people will say, I've done this job for 20 years. Why do I have to take officer training? Are you aware of every update that's happened? Can you tell me what they are? And a key thing with the officer training through the community is it's a great way to network. It's a great way to experience the Toastmasters environment. And a lot of new folks coming in are deathly afraid. I don't know what I'm going to do in my office. I don't know how I'm going to do this. We have many experienced people, though, that are there and willing to help them, willing to lead them, and willing to mentor them. And that's what, again, makes Toastmasters so well. For the people, for a new person, or for an experienced presenter, we've got something for everyone. And District 11, I think, has something for everyone because we go, again, from the upper tip of the northern part of the state clear down into northern Kentucky. So we have different cultures. We have people with different backgrounds. And at the fall conference, we will actually have one representative from each of the 7 divisions of Indiana competing in each contest. And these contests are always fun because you never know the flair, the creativity, the vocal variety, the smiles that are added in each one of these contests. I think District 11 is doing very well in spite of an economy that is not doing very well because many people realize the importance of having very, very good communication skills. Communications is something you can't buy, that learning, but you can earn it by participating, spending some time, and being there to help involve everyone else and to boost them and bring them up. And Tooting Toastmasters, again, that's one of the best things about this organization over other organizations is we all work to lift each other up. And that'll be fun to see the evaluation contest and see you participate on Friday night because these are all good and people, even in the audience watching, can learn. Mm-hmm. And the only time, in my opinion, we stop learning is when they've given us last rites and closed the lid and put us in the ground. Great updates going on. We are on track to becoming distinguished, which is a milestone for us, which is kind of a thing we can wave and say, hey, guess what we did? So I'm hoping everyone will be at the conference, and I'm very grateful you have allowed me to share with you and with the audience at home, and I will return control to you, Dave.
Well, thank you very much. Okay, and now we're going to do a little bit of a change of pace. In the second half today, we're going to talk about parliamentary procedure and Robert's Rules of Order. But we have a man who has a very clever presentation he's going to share with us, and it is on parliamentary history, and that's our own Tom Haller, a member of the Parliamentary Society here. Tom, please.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkins. All those of you in TV land within the sound of my voice. This is indeed a change of pace from what Bob said, but I do want to cover just a couple of small points, bring a couple of things to your mind. Did you think it was a little strange that Bob, an example to all of us, was so familiar with what was going on with the very late entries? Just something to think about. In case you didn't pick up on it, the person who, as division governor, is doing such a good job and already has the training all set is none other than Patricia Knaebe. May have been obvious, but in case not. All right. Now, most of our parliamentary procedure is based on English common law and common practice. For those of you who don't know, there were 3 English civil wars. Now, I suppose, strangely enough, there are some of you who have hours go by in your life when you don't even think about the English Civil Wars. But when you do, you probably think of Oliver Cromwell and the Roundheads and all that. Otherwise, you're probably thinking of the War of Roses, where the House of Lancaster and York battled for supremacy. However, there was a predecessor to all this called the Barons' War. This took place in the mid-13th century. Now, the Magna Carta, an instrument which decreased the king's power and increased the nobles' power, kind of made it possible for them to interact in a little more reasonable way, had been signed about a half century before this, but the king serving at the time, Henry III, was not paying attention to it, and he was not doing a very good job by virtually anybody's standards. So several of the other leading lights of England got together and forced him to sign another paper creating a parliament, something that shared his power. Now, he did this because he didn't have the force of arms to not do it, but he did it between very clenched teeth. And he immediately went around and divided up this already factious group which had opposed him and announced that he was repudiating it. And those who had been in favor of the parliamentary way of life found it a good idea to get the heck out of Dodge, or in this case, England, and go to France. Chief among them was a man named Simon de Montfort. He was the original signer of it. He took off for France. While he was down there, other like-minded individuals, basically barons, dukes, that kind of thing, came to him and urged him to lead them in a military action to regain control of the government of England. And he did that, and he did it very successfully. He defeated the king and his son and his followers, and being the nice guy that he was, he did not put the king and his son to death. He put them in prison. Well, unfortunately for him, that didn't work out. The son escaped. And after only a couple of years of this parliamentary rule, the son was able to raise his own army, come back, and be victorious. And Simon de Montfort was killed in the battle. Now, the reason they call Simon the original parliamentarian was that he insisted there not only be a parliament to check the power of the king, but the representatives to it be elected. That was virtually unthinkable. Nobody had ever heard or done anything like that. That just wasn't part of the culture at that period of time. So even though it was imperfect, not everybody got to vote. It was a huge step forward, very temporary. The king took over again, went back like it was, but nevertheless, he gave it his best shot. Now, one more thing to share with you. Let us shoot forward quite a bit in time, and while the country being the United States, was a very new country, and they had some business to take care of. And you will see how urgently they needed parliamentary procedure, which was provided by a book that Thomas Jefferson wrote. This is the Continental Congress, which actually precedes the nation by a little bit. Among the important tasks that they discussed was whether they should pay Thomas Whitehead about $64 in compensation for feeding British prisoners. They decided in his favor. They spent a long time debating this. This was a big deal. I suppose $64 went farther back then than it does now. They really, really got into it, over $222.60 for transporting army supplies to Dobbs Ford, New York, in Cambridge, Massachusetts. They debated that for hours on end and finally decided they would pay that bill too. Would that our current Congress take bills so seriously? Thomas Jefferson wrote this about the need for parliamentary procedure in Congress. If any man have a, wrong place, never mind, rewinding. Vice President Thomas Jefferson presented to Congress his manuals of parliamentary practice, in part because of the occasional tantrums that erupted in the Senate. One telling passage reads as if it was a teacher to an unruly classroom. No one is to disturb another in his speech by hissing, coughing, spitting, speaking, or whispering to another, nor to stand up to interrupt him, nor to pass between the speaker and the speaking member, nor to go across the Senate chamber, or to walk up and down it, or to take books or papers from the clerk's office, or write thereon. So, lots of room for improvement, and Thomas Jefferson started this on the path which leads us to where we are today.
Oh, thank
Mr.
you. Very good,
Wilkins.
Tom. Of course, we're going to have more to say about parliamentary in the second half, but that was a great presentation and very good. We have a few more minutes left yet, so I do think that we should hear from Patricia, and you have a presentation entitled The 1+1 Campaign. Patricia Knaebe.
Yes. Thank you, Dave Wilkins, fellow Toastmasters, and honored guests at home. One of the ways that Toastmasters International is pursuing new members is through a campaign that's called the 1+1 campaign. This is a campaign that motivates our existing members to recruit new members to come into clubs as guests and visitors, see for themselves what the club is like, and hopefully be motivated and make a decision to become a member of the club. Right now, as Bob Norris had mentioned, in our economy, Toastmasters has been struggling with its membership base. We are, as I said, an international organization. We have 250,000 members throughout the world. And when you think about it, that's a very small number given our worldly population. We would like to increase those numbers. If each member of each club brought one new member into the club, that would expand our membership to 500,000 people. And we would all be distinguished, and wouldn't that be wonderful? Unfortunately, it doesn't always work that way with our busy schedules, with what everybody has going on. We don't always think to ask somebody to join the club. We don't always think to put forth that invitation, which is why in our division we have a very small fledgling group that is working to expand the knowledge in the area of Toastmasters, and that is the Division B marketing team. The Division B marketing team is very motivated to get the word out, get people knowledgeable about Toastmasters. One of the things that we recently did was we had a table at a career fair at National College, and it was successful. We had approximately 20 people sign up for a giveaway for a free 6-month membership, and those people will be called back even if they don't win. They will be called to come in and be invited to a meeting. Now that is a true promotion and a true way to multiply membership, to enhance what we have going on in our clubs and in our programs. And that plus the 1+1 campaign are both excellent ways to grow not only the division membership but the district membership. I'm going to give control of the meeting back to Mr. Wilkins.
Well, thank you for that information. That's something we can all use, and the people out there also can use it. And apparently we're running out of time on the first half here, so I would suggest at this time that we go to the PSAs, and we come back and we'll talk about parliamentary. We'll see you in a few minutes.
And now for our next speaker, Stanley Lichner.
Nomine Patri et Filii Spiritui Sancti.
Speaking in public doesn't have to be a death sentence. At Toastmasters, we can help you overcome your fears.
I'd like to begin tonight with a little joke. This guy, he's a farmer. He says, "Hey, hello, sorry." But seriously, folks.
Speaking in public is no joke.
Doctor says, chicken says.
For help, call Toastmasters, the public speaking support group.
The chicken.
All the education in the world won't help you get ahead in life if you can't express your ideas effectively. Every day, competition for advancement gets tougher and tougher. You need an edge. A Toastmasters club, that edge. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters gives you the confidence to express your ideas to anyone. Get the Toastmasters edge.
What future do you envision for yourself? What dreams do you have? If you want your dreams to come true, you must have confidence in yourself and your abilities. A Toastmasters Club can help you build that confidence. A low-cost learning experience for men and women. Toastmasters shows you how to express yourself clearly and effectively. Make your dreams a reality. Join a Toastmasters Club.
outreach group that you're part of? Hi, we're back. Welcome to the second half of the Speakers and Leaders Hour. This is called Ask the Parliamentarian. I want to ask Patricia one question before we get on to that. You were talking about this outreach group that meets...
Oh, the marketing team?
Yeah, the marketing team.
The marketing team meets once a month. We add food with a meeting. We always make it nice and social. And we typically meet the last week of the month. We have been meeting on Mondays. We have moved our next meeting to a Wednesday. And we look for creative ways to market the division.
Now, this is open to any Toastmaster club in the Fort Wayne area?
It's open to any Toastmaster club in Northeast Indiana.
Or any Toastmaster, too, I suppose.
Or any Toastmaster. You don't need to be an officer in a club to join us. You can join us as an interested member in marketing Toastmasters.
And that's the 24th of April?
We are meeting on, I believe, it is the last Wednesday, if that is the 24th. Yes, and we are meeting at the Great Wall Buffet, which is at Coldwater and DuPont Roads. Have a little food, a little bit of fellowship, and come up with some ideas for how we're going to continue marketing Toastmasters.
Great, okay. Again, this is a live show, folks. The number's 422-3902. If you have questions about Toastmasters, if you have questions about parliamentary, please give us a call. And now on to the parliamentary portion. In 1980, President Ronald Reagan declared through a proclamation through the House and the Senate that April was to be Parliamentary Emphasis Month. And what that means is that the parliamentary procedure should be studied or encouraged during the month of April. And there are two parliamentary societies here in the U.S. There's the National Association of Parliamentarians, which is truly the oldest. And then there is one that we all belong to here, or a couple of us do, and that's the American Institute of Parliamentarians. And we have a local chapter, the Bob Lyman chapter. We meet right here in the library on the third Monday of the month from 6:30 until 8 p.m., where we study Robert's Rules. We help other groups. We have a group coming this month that wants us to look at their bylaws, and that should be an interesting endeavor for all of our members. The third Monday from 6:30 to 8 in the Globe Room, right down by the main entrance. But anyway, since Ronald Reagan proclaimed April as Parliamentary Emphasis Month, we asked the mayor of Fort Wayne if he could do something, and this is what he has sent for us. City of Fort Wayne proclamation. Whereas it's appropriate to honor Thomas Jefferson, author of the first manual of parliamentary practice in his birth month, and whereas it's also fitting to honor Henry Robert, author of the Robert's Rules of Order, whereas it's time to reflect upon the importance of parliamentary procedure in the meetings of both public and private organizations, and whereas it's important to remember that the correct use of parliamentary procedure protects the rights of the majority, the minority, the individual members, absentees, and all of these together, all in the same time as while fostering orderly deliberation. And whereas Fort Wayne's Robert W. Lyman Chapter 33 provides encouragement and free instruction in the basics of parliamentary procedure to the residents of Fort Wayne and surrounding area, and whereas Ronald Reagan proclaimed April, the month of Thomas Jefferson's birth, as Parliamentary Emphasis Month, acknowledging his work in parliamentary procedure. Now therefore I, Thomas C. Henry, Mayor of the City of Fort Wayne, do hereby proclaim April 2013 as Parliamentary Emphasis Month. Mayor Thomas C. Henry, Mayor. And this is what the proclamation looks like. Okay? So that being said, and this is the 1st of April, we're going to certainly talk a little bit about Robert's Rules of Order and the workshops. We who are part of the Parliamentary Society will come to your organization if you have parliamentary questions, if you need a brush up on how to be an effective leader, if you have perhaps some people in your meetings who are not quite following procedure, we can give you some advice on how to control people and how to have the meetings go in a more fair and efficient manner. And fair and efficient are the two words that are most important. I really believe that this book, Robert's Rules of Order, is the second most popular book that is bought, but not read, and is left on the shelf at home while you're at the meeting and wishing that you had this so that you could consult it. Advice free from us right now is consult this before you need any use of it. It's nice to know ahead of time, and to that end, that's what our parliamentary club does. We host a practice session, we have parliamentary lectures, we have parliamentary studies, all in the name of fair and efficient meetings. So that's what we are all about. And Tom, do you have anything that you would like to add about the club that you belong to, the chapter here?
Oh, about the club, it's a very good club. Small, very friendly, very helpful, just a very nice group of people. I would encourage everyone to come and visit us. And I would make another point. We talk mostly about Toastmasters and its relationship to parliamentarian procedure or the government. Believe me, any organization where you have meetings, you have a pressing need for parliamentary procedure. If you've ever been to a tennis club meeting, if you've ever been to a housing association meeting, that after the first 3 hours people start wandering away from, there's an urgent need for parliamentary procedure. And even one person, even a person not in leadership, who understands the principles, can be of almost unthinkable value to this organization in being efficient and fair at the same time. So, don't just think that this is for government or Toastmasters. It is for anybody that goes to meetings, period.
Exactly. And I think that we have a problem with our club that we have to overcome, that we are boring. And we are not boring at all. In fact, we have quite a bit of fun, and we do it in a friendly, cheerful, cooperative manner. We're like a little family, it seems like. And the people that come there are always surprised and delighted at what a good time you can actually have studying something as Robert's Rules of Order. Of course, when Henry Robert wrote his book, it was 175 pages. This is a shade over 700 pages. But that's because the parliamentarians got a hold of it, and each one wanted their say. And so, if you come, we would encourage you to buy the book. But we can give you a sheet of paper, 8.5 by 11, printed on both sides. Oh, not this one. Printed on both sides, that will give you about 90% of what's in that book. Can you imagine that? And if you learn those basics will carry you a long way to having very effective and successful meetings. And we mentioned earlier that during this month of April, that we will come to your group, and we can bring 1 or 2, we can bring 5 or 6, we'll bring handouts, everything is free, and anything to help your group become more efficient at solving problems and becoming efficient leaders. I know we here in Toastmasters will be going to a conference soon, and we have had a lot of discussion, and maybe we should call on Bob to see if he wants to discuss any portion of what may be happening at the next business meeting.
Well, thank you, Dave. I would be delighted to
I'd love to put you on the hot seat here for a moment. Yeah, there you
I
go.
just felt the heat in my seat turn up.
Mm-hmm.
One of the key issues we'll be talking about is the realignment, as I mentioned earlier.
Mm-hmm.
As geographical boundaries shift between clubs, or clubs either fold or we get a new one, we want to put them in nice organized areas so they can complement each other, so they can help each other. We don't want to have one club that's over here belonging to the same division as one that's clear over here. It makes it difficult for people to travel back and forth and to visit the clubs. So one of the issues will be on where are the clubs going to be, what's the most benefit, what are we looking at for potential clubs in the future. Mm-hmm. Not long ago, the realignment committee issued their report, and there'll be some discussion on that. There'll be talk about what can we do. Should we change it? Probably. And this is where parliamentary procedure will make a long meeting into a short one.
Is the alignment that is going to be presented, which I understand is this right here, is this being presented as a motion or a recommendation?
That is the recommendation from the committee.
Okay,
to
so
my
this
knowledge.
is what they would like to see happen.
That's what came out of the last district
and
council
the
meeting.
committee consists of people from every division and the leadership? Okay.
People from every division, not necessarily the leadership, other than the person that was chairing the committee.
I don't know if all of the members of our district recognize the fact that the realignment belongs to the governor, not to the members. Insofar as the governor decides which lines are going to be made and where they're going to be drawn. And it's put up for discussion, but primarily the governor has the last say in what happens, because it's her realignment, or his, depending on who's coming into office. So I think that's something to remember.
I think that would be something to bring up at the beginning of that part of the meeting.
You know, do you have any comments about anything we've heard so far, Tom?
Well, it occurs to me, for those who are not Toastmasters and are not familiar with this, there might be a point of some confusion about locating the clubs. You locate your club wherever you darn well want to have it. If you want to have it at the Fish and Stroh's restaurant in Kokomo, that's where you're going to have it. We're talking about aligning these clubs in groups, in areas and divisions. And we're talking about which area.
It's geographical positioning rather than.
So the clubs aren't going to go anywhere. It's just how they're going to be aligned for everybody's convenience.
Okay. You know, if you come to one of our workshops, we give you handouts on such things as good meeting basics and also some of the things that you need. And one of the things that you ought to have is one of these. It is a gavel. It's a symbol of authority. It's just a symbol, but it's one that's very important. And it should be used, as Henry Roberts says in his book, the gavel should be used wisely and with restraint. That means there's none of this hammering with it. It's not actually a hammer, it is a gavel. Now, because we like to do things during Parliamentary Month that can entertain and excite people, we have a collection of gavels that was put together some years ago by an educator here in the United States. His name was Wendell Wixell. And Mr. Wixell was an educator, a public speaker, a Toastmaster, and a parliamentarian. And wherever he went, people seemed to have given him gavels. Well, we have taken 18 of the most unusual and unique gavels, and we are bringing them to the library this coming Saturday. That's the Saturday, the 6th of April, and it's from 1 till 3:30. We'll be in the main hall, in the main concourse, have a couple tables set up, and all these gavels will be on display in a beautifully mounted case. And some of our members will be there, too, to hand out literature, also to talk about our club and what's going on. And so if you're interested, we would love to have you come down and talk to us and see what we do. And if you're interested tonight, give us a call at 422-3902. Let me ask each of the people here, have they used or are they familiar at all with using Robert's Rules in your club meetings for your business meetings? I'll start with you, Patricia.
I belong to the American Red Cross Toastmasters Club, and we have a tendency to be a little bit more avant-garde with our approach to Robert's Rules of Order. As a matter of fact, I almost hate to tell on our club, but we're pretty lax about using Robert's Rules of Order. We asked Mr. Tom Haller to join us one club meeting to take us through the motions of what Robert's Rules of Order is about, and even after he did that and was very patient and very thorough in his speech and his presentation, we still got it wrong. So we've got a long way to go to get Robert's Rules of Order involved in what we do in our meetings.
Well, let me ask you, did you get your whatever was under discussion resolved and solved? Did you vote on something and make a decision?
I don't believe we had an issue to vote on.
Okay.
It was just a matter of during our business meeting we were trying to make motions during the discussion, and I think some of the items of discussion weren't necessarily proper motions. So, as I said, we have a long way to go.
Okay. Okay. Well,
if I might take exception to one aspect of what she said. I appreciate her kind remarks. We did have a vote. After I had made my presentation, after we had had questions and answers, we then had a vote. The affirmative was to say aye, and the negative was to raise their hand. So I failed. I don't tell you, I failed.
Oh. Okay, that's an interesting way of doing it.
I'm not sure that our club president had listening ears on that day.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, Tom, have you had any parliamentary experiences that you'd like to share with us? Humorous, fun, pathetic?
I thought I'd already done that.
Oh, I see. Okay.
No, I mean, it's probably very hard for the average person to grasp this, but as Mr. Wilkins said, parliamentary procedure is fun. And sometimes it can get kind of hairy, and nobody knows all the answers, and certainly as a new parliamentarian, relatively new parliamentarian, I don't have all the answers. Even though I'm retired, I don't curl up with the book at night and read it. One time, and you out there in TV land should know that Mr. Wilkins is the district parliamentarian, and he has done an excellent job over the years of keeping us on track. One year when he was ill, I took his place. That was interesting. Fortunately, nothing too serious came up that time. I have been kind of a ad hoc, I guess, for a better word, parliamentarian at some deck meetings. That was a little more iffy. There was room for improvement, but that's how we do and we learn.
Yeah,
that's
right.
So, and overall, I've enjoyed it a great deal.
Okay, Bobby, it's your turn.
Well, I have a confession to make. I have to be very, very careful with parliamentary procedure in my home club, Bob Lyman, because there are three parliamentarians in my home club. There's Tom, Marlene Purdy, and Barb White. And I don't remember if Roger Reed is in your club or not. Well, when he's okay. So there are three eagle eyes watching me. And have I stepped on landmines? On occasion I have.
Okay.
But they gently prod me back in the right direction. Sometimes they'll make a point of order in the meeting, or if it's nothing dramatic where anyone's going to die, they'll let me know afterwards.
Okay.
But it is something that we all can use. It is good, because otherwise some of these meetings could go on forever and accomplish nothing.
Yeah, well, that's the important thing about parliamentary procedure. Fair and efficient. Everybody should have a chance to be heard if they have something to say. And yet, in the end, the majority must rule. You have to have respect for the minority, and it has to be done in a timely fashion. And you can use common sense more than you really would ever realize. And even Henry Robert himself said, don't use these rules to frustrate a meeting. Use these to facilitate a meeting. And it's very frustrating for somebody like me to go to a meeting and see things being done entirely wrong. And yet, if they're being accomplished, then let it go. I mean, as long as work is being done, fine. And, maybe you want to talk to them afterwards. But so that's how that goes. One of the books that came out after he died was Parliamentary Law, and this is by Henry Robert. And these are questions that were mailed to him after he retired from the military. And this was just about 90 years ago, but I think the questions are still valid. I don't know the answer to this, but we'll find out. A motion was made, but not immediately seconded. Another motion was made and seconded, after which the first motion was then seconded. Each mover claimed his motion was the pending one, which is correct.
My question on that would be, was there discussion after the first motion was made, or did the second motion second person jump in immediately?
That's how I'm inferring that, but the answer is the one who made the first motion. When a motion is made, the chair has no right to recognize any other or make a motion until the first motion has been stated by the chair, or until he has taken the proper steps to ascertain whether anyone wishes to second and has announced that the motion is not seconded. So, okay.
I mean, to my mind, there are some things that we don't know about that, but it would appear that the chair was not totally on the ball.
Exactly. That sounds like it. I agree.
I mean, after the first motion was made, if somebody jumped in with another motion, that should have been ruled out of order because they were still working on the first motion, in my mind.
Thus the gavel comes in.
Plus what?
Thus the gavel comes in. To get
Yes,
attention.
okay, yeah. Yeah, well, use the gavel wisely and with restraint, okay. Here's an interesting one, and it will tell you how long ago the question was written. Can this question be divided? That means it's divided into two separate motions. We move that we give a whist, W-H-I-S-T, and it proceeds to go to the French orphans. Whist is a card game, a bridge game. And so apparently they're having a card party with the money going to the French orphans.
Isn't that two separate motions?
No, it can't be divided because the second proposition is absurd if the first one is lost. The proper course to be pursued by those who wish separate votes taken on the two propositions is to move to strike out all the words after whist. The vote on this motion will show whether the society wishes these words to be retained just as effectively as if the original motion were divided. Oh, this is good. Are there any motions that cannot be withdrawn? The answer is, if so, please state them. No, provided the withdrawal is made before it is too late for the motion to be renewed. The motion to reconsider cannot be withdrawn after it is too late for anyone else to make the motion. Notice of a motion to be made at the next meeting may be withdrawn at any time during the meeting at which the notice was given, but not afterward. Interesting. Okay. Well, these are some of the questions that we sometimes ask and answer in the club just to further our own edification and our own knowledge. So if you have a Robert's Rules, this is the most current one, the 11th edition that came out last year in 2011, I guess 2 years ago now. But even an old Robert's Rules can be helpful in determining the basics in a meeting because the basics really don't change. Okay, we're down to the last 3 minutes, and I'd like to give each of you a chance to promote whatever organization or group that you want, and we started with you first. Let's start with Patricia this time.
I belong to two Toastmasters clubs, the American Red Cross Club, which meets on Tuesdays at noon at the American Red Cross. As I have made note, we are lax about Robert's Rules of Order. But we do have fun, so please come and join us. We are open to the public. The second Toastmasters club I belong to is Advanced Speakers and Leaders. We meet on the first Monday of the month, and it is a closed club. It is for you Toastmasters out there who have completed your Competent Communicator manuals and you are a member in good standing with another club. Please join us the first Monday of the month. We meet here at the library. We meet upstairs in the business section in the Business and Technology Conference Room.
Okay, thank you. And Tom?
In addition to the Advanced Speakers and Leaders Club, I'm also a member of the Anthony Wayne Toastmasters, Club 521. We meet every Thursday at the south location of Ivy Tech, room 1550. All evening clubs meet from 6:30 to 8, so that's a given whatever club it is. We have excellent meeting facilities. We have many very experienced Toastmasters, such as Mr. Wilkins and his wife Bernice. It's a really good group. It's one of the larger groups. I would strongly encourage you to give it serious consideration. However, there are many other clubs in the area, including several of which I'm area governor of, and if the time is better at another club location, do it. By all means, look into it and do it.
Okay, thank you, Bob.
Well, in addition to speakers and leaders, the Bob Lyman Club, 2nd and 4th Mondays at Northcrest Pizza Hut, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Smoky Montgomery, 2nd and 4th Tuesdays, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. So we are on the north side and the south side for your convenience. All clubs basically have the same structure. The difference is the people that join, like any other organization.
Okay, before I mention my clubs, I want to thank some special people here tonight. Bob Hunter and Marty Stern are our camera operators tonight. Thank you, guys. Patty Hunter is working on the audio, and Elizabeth Lord is our technical director. Of course, these are the facilities of Access Fort Wayne, part of the Allen County Public Library System. I belong to the Bearfield Toastmasters and the Parliamentary Club. Bearfield meets on Tuesday night. It's meeting as we speak right now at the Penguin Point on Winchester Road at Lower Huntington Road from 6:30 to 8. And remember the Parliamentary Club here in the Globe Room in the library on the third Monday from 6:30 until 8 p.m. So until next time, thanks for tuning in, folks, and may all your meetings be fair and efficient, and learn from Toastmasters Speakers and Leaders Hour. Bye-bye.